Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of Point of View, a new series by Amazing Workplaces. In this new series, I shall be getting into a discussion with leaders from various organizations spread across India as well as across borders. The idea is to get into conversation with them, to get them to share their views about the various aspects that make organizations really amazing. The purpose is to understand what drives leaders to their own workplaces so that we can delve deeper into the corporate philosophy and share with you path breaking ideas that come straight from people who have gone ahead and changed their workplace to make them better, more inviting, and extremely thriving for their own people. Today, our guest on the show is Deepak Kumbar, Director Global Finance Shared Service Organization, Ramboll, Denmark. Deepak is an award winning business leader with 20 years of professional experience to his credit. He specializes in service delivery, transformation, and change management. In 2019, Deepak was shortlisted for Best Shared Service SSON Asia Impact Award. So, hello Deepak, and a warm welcome to our show, Point of View. I'm really delighted to have you on the show today. How are you, Deepak?
Thank you. Thank you, Ekta. Thanks for inviting, and pleasure is all mine. It's always good to share your knowledge so that it can help larger group of people.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you so much. I'm sure this discussion that we are going to have today is going to be really insightful and helpful for our audience. So, welcome once again.
Sure.
Uh, so, Deepak,
Thank you.
during 20 years of your corporate career, you have handled multiple leadership roles at executive level with extensive experience in finance,
Yeah.
accounting, investment banking, retail account administration, insurance, etc. So, tell us something about your career journey.
Yeah. Correct. So basically, if I have to summarize my career journey, then there are few key things which I can recall now, which went well for me, and which is also an experiential learning. So first of it is you need to be clear in mind what you need to do, and that's the first step actually. And it's very common in everybody's career. So when I started my career after my management degree in business administration, I was not sure what line or what stream should I pick, because I was a fresh postgraduate, and I was exploring what needs to be done. So in the first year, I did equity research and selling of financial product, but as soon as I was into it, in say 3 4 months, I realized that that's not my cup of tea. So I started to explore. I started talking to people. What this is my preferences. What field do you suggest I should get into? And then I made up my mind that back office operations is something that I will like to do. So I started. I started with an organization where I kind of prospered, but unfortunately that organization closed down. And then I joined General Electric as a back office operations manager. So this is where the foundation start to lay down, and I started to find wings in whatever I was doing. So that was the only thing that I was focusing on. I was not very keen on what amount of money I am getting, because I I just felt that I should do what I like to do. And luckily for me, and that's how I think for most of us it happens, is you when you start liking something, the money will follow, because naturally if you like something, then you do it well, and with that the growth comes. So that is one thing that worked wonderfully well for me after Genpact. So first couple of years was a struggle as I was trying to explore different things, but later on, after a year has passed, I was very clear on what needs to be done. And I like my profile. So everything else on the monetary part and the positioning part in the organization was taken care of. So that's one thing. The other thing that I recommend is as you progress in your career, build your strongholds. That's very important because if you are a mediocre player or if you are jack of all trade and master of none, that will not work. You need to understand what is your strength and build your skills on your strength. For example, for me, as I progressed in my career, I started with service delivery roles. But later I realized that project management is something that I like, transformation is something that I like, transition is something I like, and change management is something I like. So I started building upon this as a roadmap for myself, and I started also to do upskilling of my skills. Whatever I have learned in management, business administration was not enough. So as I started to grow more and started to do more roles relating to transformation, project management, service delivery, transition, and change management, I realized that I need to upskill myself in few of those things. And important thing is that don't go for the certification first. First, you try to take a practical exposure within the organization that you work with. If you really like it, then it is important that you certify yourself because that will give you a lot of things that you don't know. So if so, my career path in terms of upskilling myself and staying hungry to learn more looks like this. In 2000, I did my MBA. In 2008, I did my Six Sigma certification. Then in 2009, I did the leadership transition. 2011, I did my project management certification. 2017, I did my change management. 2018, I did my strategy in digital transformation. And 2019, I started using LinkedIn more because that is also a pool of free knowledge where people share their experience learning and you learn a lot from it. So all this, you see that at each stage of my career, I started to look myself and see what more should I do, and this is basis on the practical experience. So when I went into the change management, I was doing wonderfully well, but then I was also keen to understand what is happening in the market, what tools are more available, how do I kind of certify myself and understand the theoretical part of practical things that I have learned. So that is how, and of course I made it a point that every year, to fill in the gaps and to keep tab of what's happening in the industry, I attended couple of conferences at least from either SSON or any other organization outsourcing like NASCOM, etc. So as to ensure that I am keeping myself updated on what is happening in the industry. So that's on how I started learning and kind of grew myself to say that, okay, this is where I want to be, this is what I am doing, and I need to do few certificates, or maybe I need to expose myself to different tools that are available through the certification. The other thing that I kind of like more or has worked well with me, that I never constrain myself to a particular domain. So I started with insurance in the General Electric, insurance, reinsurance, and I took a deep dive into the property casualty insurance sector. But once I have done with it and I had good exposure, then I tried to explore myself in the other fields. For example, my next organization was Fidelity. So there I got into the payroll processing and the HR and payroll processing. And I did the role there of transition, moving work from different countries to India, etc. Then I moved to another organization some year later where I did again the insurance, but this time it was a slightly different. It was for a UK market. So you kind of explore what's happening in the American market, what's happening in the UK market, which market is it, what are the limitations, best practices in each market, and kind of built up a team of around 300 people. Then I did a transformation project in this in the insurance domain, where we kind of moved the insurance Lloyd's of London market to from a paper-based organization to an electronic mode, and there were various benefits that got reaped, not only for the customer but as an individual for me, because that was a great learning, because we were using technology which I have not used earlier. I also explored implementing robotic process automation very early in my career in 2010, and learned a lot of skills on how the robotics works, and how does it impact people, what needs to be done, what is the benefit case, etc. Then, though I was now a seasoned player in the insurance industry, and also have done payroll, but I did not confine myself to the insurance industry. The next role that I took was into the investment banking and retail account administration. And I kind of set up service center or outsourcing center for 7 international banks. And the unique thing about this was, not only I was learning the new skills and my organization trusted on my skills, but also I was also getting more flamboyant with people interacting and understanding what are the different needs. I got into a role which needed 50% of my team to be a fluent German speakers. And there were different challenges, because it's a banking industry. There are more security, stringent processes, turnaround times were very less. So that exposed me to a different culture, working with different people. So I started the career with US clients, then moved to UK, then Europe. And I got a lot of exposure in this, did a lot of transformation project also in the banking field, and hence expose myself to a different role. In fact, I did not hesitate from even doing the sales role. So I kind of, beside my operations role, took an opportunity to do a sales front ending, customer onboarding, pitching to the prospective customers, because that added a different flair to my operations hat that I was wearing, or the transformation hat that I wearing. So kind of keep exploring yourself, try to explore different roles, and yourself more valuable to the organization, and that is how it works.
Thank you,
So
Deepak. Thank you.
sorry, that's a long answer to your short question.
Thank you so much, Deepak. I think you totally went into deep into your career journey by
Yeah,
telling me in detail how it started and how it actually transformed you and transformed your career as well. So if I may just kind of sum it up, there were four important things that I actually noticed in this entire journey. First is be very clear about what you want in life from your career, from yourself.
true,
And
true,
once you decide
true,
that, then develop your skills according to your core strengths. Yeah. The third,
true,
yeah,
true.
the third thing that I actually realized, which was very important, was from your career journey, is that focus on learning and development. If you don't focus on learning and development, then your career actually will not take off the way you really want it to. And
That's very true.
fourth point which you noted, which you actually mentioned, and which was of importance, is which I see a lot of people don't really actually decide according to what you have mentioned, is that keep experimenting with your domain so that your domain
Correct.
knowledge keeps on getting enhanced. So once the initial phases of your career
True.
are through, and then you start experimenting with the domain. Once you are in a leadership role, it will actually give you access
True.
to a lot of knowledge about new markets, new domains, the way things operate in different aspects. Like you said, you have done operations as well as a front facing, customer facing sales role as well. So
Correct.
really pretty interesting to hear it all from you. And
Thank you.
now I'll just here ask one thing, which is gathering more
Sorry,
data.
Ekta, there's one thing that I also like to highlight,
Yeah, sure,
which,
go ahead. Yeah.
which was not there in your summarization, is don't do a certification and look for that profile.
Okay.
Do that profile and look for the certification,
Yeah.
because then you really know that whether you liked it or not. If you do the certification, it's very difficult for you to get that role, because people will not give you that role because you just have a theoretical knowledge. But if
Absolutely.
you get an opportunity to expose yourself to a different role, then do a certification, because you will be happy to do it because you can relate it with the practical world.
Right. Absolutely. So it's actually, liking something and then enhancing your skills, as per the basis of what you like to do, right? So,
Yes, that's right.
taking a cue from your answer, I just need to understand one thing. Like you mentioned at the initial stages of your career, you were not clear
Yeah,
what you wanted to do. So you started with a role which was more into finance based, yeah, selling
yeah,
securities and all. But eventually you
right.
realized what you like doing and you shifted to that. So, just I need to understand. How do you feel things have changed over the period of time? And when it comes to students today, yeah, do you feel that
Yeah.
they are more clear about what they really want to do in life, or is it that students even today face that kind of a dilemma in life? Yeah.
See, whichever generation you are, or whichever year you are, once it's a transition. So when you complete your education,
Yes.
that's a different word altogether, because you've been taught various things, and not all those things get application in the world. So 80% of what you learn, you never actually apply it in your real practice world. There are a lot of chartered accountants who do a lot of things which they're not told, or which they are not get educated on. So, for example, so it will always be the case. But the good thing is now there are a lot of education venues available, where kind of it's a sandwich approach. So they kind of do theoretical thing, and then they do the industrial trainings, and then they kind of let people do the real work in the organization and come back and then do the remaining course. So that ways it has become easy. Plus, also there are a lot of awareness now available through the social medias and things like that. So
Yeah.
you can explore a lot of things, that what is that you want to do,
Yeah.
and you're not confined to a particular field. But I still feel that when you transition from being a student to a professional, you
Yeah.
will still struggle, because the real life experience will be quite different. And you don't learn all those things through the book. So when you get into an organization, you need to understand what is right and what is politically right.
Yeah.
People will miss that, and sometimes that can be a lose end to your bright career.
Okay, so so basically, what you mean to say is that even today, it is experience which actually opens new avenues for you, and you understand what exactly you want to do in life. Yeah, so it's only through
Yes, yes,
experience that you can find that out. Okay, awesome. Thank you so
absolutely,
much, Deepak.
absolutely.
Yeah, thanks. So,
Okay.
okay, Deepak. Now, tell me one thing. You've been instrumental in devising strategies to grow business from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah,
A significant part of this includes building and leading large cross functional and cross cultural teams to deliver sustained value in terms of quality of service in various business functions that you have undertaken. So, how do you
yeah.
feel that a great team can help in not just cost optimization, but also deliver a superior customer experience for that matter?
Sure. So it is. I have kind of in my career has led teams which are spread across different geographies. People coming from different backgrounds, and people. Some of my team members sitting in different continents as well. It's all a mindset thing. So how do you kind of ensure that? You are able to deliver what you are supposed to deliver. So one important aspect that I have learned is create a team which has a complementary skill sets in the team members. So, for example, there might be one team member who's good at particular thing, but then he's not good at the other thing. But some other person in the team is better than is complementing that skill.
Yeah.
So join them together and kind of build a team where if one falls, the other can pick up, and it's a relay race. It's never it's not just a silo race where one individual is running. It's always a teamwork.
Yeah.
And so you create that team. And the other thing that you talk about, the customer experience and cost optimization. So you never focus on cost optimization. You just focus on customer experience, and cost optimization comes as a byproduct of customer experience.
Right.
Because cost optimization can work if your customer is happy, if you are able to retain your customer. If you're not able to retain your customer, not keeping them happy, the cost optimization can't come at the cost of customer experience.
Very true. I
So
mean, that's a very strong point that you. Yeah, you carry on. Talking about.
yeah, so that's one thing that I have learned during my 20 years, that you need to understand what is the customer's pain point. Many of the organizations that I have worked with, what they have done is they have built a product and then they are selling it to the customer. It should be the other way around. You understand what is the pain point of the customer and then try to solve that problem. You can't just say that I have this product and why don't you buy it. It may not be on the customer's radar because that's not his problem. So you get deep into the customer, understand what their pain areas are, and then try to resolve using the products that you have developed. You just can't just cross sell the product because that will not last for long.
Yeah.
The other important thing that I have understood, and I have always worked on when I work with the large team, is don't micromanage your people, because it creates or it kills the creativity. It takes just 10 seconds of micromanagement to kill a bright idea. So get into a habit of letting people explore. At most, they will fail, but you can always rectify. But if you always direct the people, then you will have a bunch of executors, right? And I have led people at different levels. There are AVPs reporting to me, there are managers reporting to me, there are transformation leads reporting to me. So all these position lead needs lot of freedom. So, let them develop and grow, and you just help them in guiding through your experience. Don't micromanage ever, because it kills creativity, and creativity and innovation are the key ingredients of the industry today. If you can't be creative, if you can't be innovative, you can't have a differentiator from the other organization or the other service provider, and that makes a lot of difference. So that is what I have kind of always has told the team, and or always believe that don't micromanage people. If you want to build a strong team, if you want to bring a winning team, if you want to have cost optimization, customer experience, then let people evolve, let them innovate, let them fail, and find a way where you can reward the failures. Because
Yeah.
if you're doing a very standard job as a team, then be sure that tomorrow that job will be wiped off by technology. Only differentiator between a bot or intelligent automation and human beings are humans are innovative. They can build relationship, they can understand much better than the machine. So always grow on that, and always invest in reskilling people. Because if what if you don't so basically the dilemma will always be in an organization. I am investing in the people, what if people leave? So all my investment in their skills will be waste. But the other dilemma which I always point is, what if I don't invest and then they stay back in the organization? Then I will have a very poor team who are not skilled to deliver as per the demand of the customer. And one example that I want to give here is uh, people are always keen to explore and learn new things. So when I was leading this shared service team at Rambol, I developed a set of techno-functional expert from the finance expert. So people who are finance expert, but I kind of gave them the opportunity that if you want to learn robotics, if you want to learn artificial intelligence, or you don't need to be an expert. There will always be an expert team in the COE. But since you are a functional expert, you are much better equipped if you know the technology. And I have a large team today who's a techno-functional expert, and they are with me for more than 4 years now. Same people, because they know that they have learned a lot. They come as a finance expert, they are still a finance expert, but they have over a period have learned new things, new technology, and they have delivered wonderful projects for customer experience and cost optimization.
Okay, thank you, Deepak. I think again, you put it across very well. Uh, the points that you mentioned here, that don't micromanage the team, have space for innovation, yeah, let people make mistakes and learn from them, reward mistakes. That's a very important thing. At least people try to do things new, and that's how you retain that innovation streak in them, right? And
Sure.
I mean, another important factor is, which everybody obviously talks about, is learning and development. And like you mentioned, uh, don't live in the fear that what if they you skill them and make them learn new things and they leave, because the bigger fear is what if they stay and you are not skilling them, upskilling them. And that's a point
Sure.
which last week I was speaking with Gauri Das also. She also mentioned the same thing. So it comes across
Mhm.
that yes, organizations today view things very differently, because earlier, especially in smaller organization, people used to have that fear that what if we teach our people and they leave. So,
Yes.
keep the best of the skills with yourself. But now it's not the
Yes.
thing. Now, to
True.
make
True.
the best of the people, you have to ensure that they keep on learning and growing. Yeah. So,
True. True.
very interestingly put across and summed up. Thank you so much, Deepak. That
Thank
brings
you.
me to my next question. Basically, I've been listening to you, and I need to understand it from you that through your experience, what do you feel, what according to you are some of the key things that have driven you to make the career choices that you have made? And I mean, what is it that you choose for in an organization? One point you had put across very strongly was that you never look for compensation. But if just two or three things, you have to say, okay, this is what I look for in an organization, what would it that be? Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I have always done is, if I am in a particular role or in a particular organization, whether I want to leave that organization is a secondary thing. Every few months or every 6 months, what I have set back and understood that, is this what I want to do for the next few years? And am I getting the good enough opportunities in this organization for me to develop? Or so basically, that's a question you should ask yourself. Are you really enjoying the job that you are doing? Because if the answer is no, then you're just doing a 9 to 5 job. You go to office, do the execution, and come back, and that is not how you grow. So you need to ask yourself, what is that you need to do, and the best way is to explore the same organization, because often you have built the reputation in the same organization, so you explore different roles in the same organization. That's the best thing. The only when you don't get the different roles that you aspire to do, then you start looking out. So that's the key. I have always stayed in the organization for very long. So in one of the organizations, I did around 6 years in the same organization. I left the organization because I was not getting the role further. But when the role arrived, the managing director of that organization came and spoke to me that, okay, Deepak, you were looking for that role. I know you moved on, but will you like to come back? Because I had built a strong relationship.
Yeah.
So that's how you kind of try and explore for the role, talk to the people, because talking is one thing that people sometimes don't do.
Yeah.
If you don't talk, uh, then the answer is always no. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So express yourself, don't hesitate. And I always keep telling people that you are doing 10 things, I expect you to do two things wrong. Don't, I mean, be a failure, that's good, because then you know exactly where your shoe is pinching the most and where you're failing, and you try to grow
Yeah.
and move on in that fashion, rather than just going there doing the job. And believe me, your career growth is nobody's agenda. So if you don't think, if you don't invest, then you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, it will be like you can run as fast as you like on a treadmill, but it's not going to take you anywhere. So you need to keep thinking what is that you need to do, where you need to go, where do you see yourself a year down the line, 2 years down the line. And if you have decided to change the role, or if you have decided to change the organization, then just don't change because of heck of it. Change because you feel that, say for example, I give you an example. So I kind of created the shared service for Computer Science Corporation. Okay. Then when I was started to look out, because of course there were a lot of other factors why I started to look out. I was first, the question that I asked myself, what is that I want to do? Because I had lot of options. I have done lot of areas in my career in the last 15, 20 years. So I can get lot of opportunities in the market. But what is that one thing that I wanted to do? And the answer came that I want to again set up a shared services. So I then joined Rambol, and Rambol was not a big organization then, or Rambol. I mean, Rambol is one of the mid-sized organization. There are various organizations where I was getting offer from, and for a different operations role, transformation role, etc. But I choose Rambol because I knew that, okay, this is the area where I will get all the freedom. I will get all the things that I wish to, and I wanted to implement what I have learned in setting up the shared service center earlier. So that is how you, and of course, money should not be a botheration, because people will understand what your skills are and they will always give you the market equivalent. And and once you are at a leadership level, you will get the money you want. That's not a problem. But the more important thing is it's a role. So just keep focusing on the role, and also do a due diligence when you join an organization. And I mean, it can be a cultural fit. So understand from various people, from the consultant, placement consultant, from the people you interact in the organization. When you take the interviews, then ask questions. Don't just be silent that you need to go. And see around how the organization is. If you see few people who are like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years in the organization, then you can understand that it has a good culture because of which people are there. So, I mean, Joe, just look out for those indicators while you're making a change in your role, and that's how you will get into a role which you aspire for.
Okay, thank you, Deepak. So basically, what I understand from this conversation is that for you, primarily, role is very important. Yeah.
Yes.
And as long as you're getting the role which you aspire for, and when I say role, is basically what comes from this conversation is that it has to be a growth oriented role. Since you
Yes.
are invested in your own career growth, you have always been looking for roles which have enhanced your career, yeah, and
Correct.
moved
Correct.
you forward and upward both, right? And you have,
Yes, that's
yeah.
true.
So, and that is something which is very important. So, apart from I mean, an organization offering you anything per se, you see what is it that you can contribute. So being a
Correct.
contributor becomes, when we actually focus on our role, becoming a contributor becomes very important. So don't see, what an organization can do for you. What is it that you can do for an organization? And like you mentioned, results will always follow through, right?
True, true.
Right?
And once you're in a leadership role, it's almost like a partnership.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to ask what's in it for me, and the organization will ask what is that you can give it to them.
Yeah.
So that likelihood of both the things meeting is the only when you are successful in the organization. I mean, very early in the career, when I was leaving General Electric, I was getting lot of offers for maybe 1.5 times what I was earning then. But I choose not to go because I knew that this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And of course, people were saying me that I we are in your place, we will take this role because this is quite lucrative. But I was not looking at money because I knew that not if not today, maybe a year down the line, people will realize my value and will get that role and money. So and that has happened. So
So basically, one has to be instrumental in the growth of the organization as well. The organization has to give you that platform, and you also have to contribute equally, to ensure that you're
correct,
using that platform to help the organization grow as well, right?
true, true.
Okay,
That's very true.
very interesting. So, Deepak, again, I'll come to that you have had such a great experience of, a variety of uh, positions and roles, basically. So, in this long and interesting career journey that you have had the experience of working with stakeholders across the globe, if I'm not wrong, you worked in India, UK, US, ME, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia. You have been associated with companies from all over. So while being
Yeah,
associated with organizations like GE Capital, International Services, Fidelity Investment, EXL, CSC, and a most currently Rambol, which is a Denmark-based MNC, like you mentioned. So during
yeah.
this entire phase of your career journey, how have you as a leader evolved?
Yes. So this is a very interesting question because this is again basis and focusing on what you want to do. So one thing that I have always told you as so far in the interview, that role choosing your role is very important. Then the second thing that I have learned, which is other than your functional skill, is basically the ability to build relationship.
Yeah.
It is not the best people in the world who get, or the most fit people in the world who gets the best role.
Yeah.
It's the people who work well in terms of relationship building. It is the people who kind of are more adaptable are the one who gets the best role. So I have always given priority to the relationship that I have with my stakeholders, with my managers, with my team, etc, and that has worked well. If you, and that is how I have grown as a leader, from an operations leader to transformation leader to a change management leader, and also to from just a people manager to managing people sitting in different countries, and also giving them freedom where you're not in control of the things. Also during the career, I had people who are not reporting to me, just they have dotted line reporting to me. So how do you manage those people? And of course, people come with a different background, from different culture, from different countries, from different origins, so they have different expectations and different ways of working. So all those things that you have to kind of understand. And two things that I have focused on beside the role is, one is the building relationship with your people, now whether it be customer, stakeholder, team members, or the direct report, is that's number one. The number two is basically give them respect, because if you give them respect, it will come back. If you just treat them as an employee and try to dominate, it will not work. when you mature as a leader, I have always maintained that anybody who has a 10, 12 years of experience, and I have, say, 20 years of experience, you are no junior to me, because in those 12 years, you might have learned things which I have not been able to learn in 20 years. So it is always exchange of thoughts that will come, and you give the freedom to the people to understand, and that is how you grow as a leader. So I mean, leader is really one who inspires people to kind of do more, think more, and act more. And that is how it has worked well for me, and that is how I have grown up as a leader. Because I have led people of different nationalities, and their culture is quite different. People like to do different things. People get motivated on different things, and people kind of aspire to different things. I also have led people who don't want to grow in the organization. I mean, people don't want to take additional responsibilities. At the extreme end, there are people who want to take additional responsibilities. So you need to understand very well what works for one may not work for other. One shoe will not fit everybody. And one important thing that I have also learned is, when people are growing in the organization, or when people are new in their career, they do not differentiate between correct and politically correct.
Okay.
So, and of course, when you do different roles, people will be. It will not sail with everybody. So everybody have their reservations. There might you might be doing a role which may lead to a job loss for some people, or which may kind of automate some of their roles. But this is good for the organization. So people will show resistance, but what you need to understand is, you don't need to get confronted with people. You don't need to take them heads on. There are ways of doing things, and there are organization hierarchy which you need to work upon, because just going head on will not help. So that is how you develop as a leader. It's a broad field, and I can possibly speak for a couple of days on that, but in short, I'm just talking about role, which as an individual you should look at. Then the relationship building, that is important. Giving respect and flexibility to the people is the third thing that you need to work upon. And then you need to be not just correct, but politically correct. Politically correct sometimes is better than just correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Deepak, for throwing light on this subject. Yes, like you mentioned, leadership is a subject which is where one can actually go on and speak for days. So,
True, true.
yeah, but we can't extend this program for that period of time. Sorry, that was on a lighter note. Uh,
Yeah,
so, interesting thing that you have put across is that relationship building is very important for a leader. Yeah,
yeah,
understanding people, and not just on people who are senior to you, people who are junior to you, and imparting respect because you don't know what they know. Yeah. So there could
yeah,
be a person with a lesser experience sometimes may know much more than we do. So until unless we respect what they know, and until unless that relationship is there, we will also not
yeah,
learn from them. So it's a, that relationship is basically about exchanging of ideas and your knowledge and all. So very
true.
nicely put. Now here, since we are on the question of leadership, and mentoring and
Yeah,
coaching is part of it, and that is something which you are passionate about also. So as
yeah,
part of giving back to the society, you do undertake mentoring and coaching. So tell me one thing:
yeah.
how important is mentoring and coaching uh, on part of the leader? Yeah, as well as if you are in your career journey, how important is mentoring and coaching to you for your own career journey? So I just want to want you to throw light on both the aspects: being a leader, giving
Yeah.
mentoring and coaching, and as a employee, receiving mentoring and coaching as a part of growth. Go ahead.
Yes, I think this is a very relevant topic as of now, because a lot of people have common skills. So there are a lot of management graduates, there are a lot of chartered accountants, and there are a lot of similar skilled people in the field. So if I were to take an interview of 10 people, how will I differentiate? So the key differentiator is people who choose their mentors or do mentorings. For example, I do mentoring for ACCA. There are a couple of people that I'm mentoring, a few in ACCA and otherwise. So people actually, when they come to you, they come with a particular problem which you might have experienced. So when you kind of tell them that, okay, this is what I have done, it kind of triggers catalyst. It acts as a catalyst on the people who are getting mentored, because they don't need to make that same mistake on their own, but they are actually learning from your experience.
Right.
So that is very important, and I think uh, other than the academics, it is very important that very early in your career, if you are able to choose good mentors for you, then it will really help expedite your career and help you mature much faster than the people who don't have the mentors. Because you as an individual has a particular experience, so you're limited by that window of experience that you have. But when you go to the mentors, they give you a lot of things and a lot of perspective that they might have experienced over the large span of their career, and that is what kind of catalyst your career as such. I remember that when I was switching roles within the organization, and as I mentioned that I took a pre-sales sales role, front-ending customer role. I was very new to this role, and I didn't knew much around on the trick of the trade, on what to do, how to speak to the customer. I have done that. I have renewed the deals with the customers single-handedly, but then sales is, it's a different domain. So one thing, so as I said that I took a sales role in between, along with my operations transformation and change management role. So I choose a mentor for myself. And I was like 10, 12 years of experience in the industry, and I choose a mentor for myself. So what I used to do is I just go to the that mentor and will not disturb that person, but I will just sit with that person, and he will interact with during the day with lot of other people, and how he used to deal and what tips he used to tell these people. I used to listen, and then I will at some point of time say that, okay, hey, I have these issues, this is what I have experienced when I go to a customer, this is what I expect, how do I come to. So it is very important to become presentable in the field that you are, and that really expedites. So just sitting with somebody very experienced in that field gives you a lot of perspective. So say for example, I am from an operations domain, I am from the transformation and change management domain, so I used to prepare the proposals which may not be fit for a sales deal or a prospective customer. So he used to put a lot of different thought process around it, and that's what I learned over a period of time spending time with him, which otherwise if I have to take that mentor off from my career, I wouldn't have get insight to those things. So it is very important that you pick up the right mentor, and it is not a bad idea to pick up one or two mentors and not just one mentor, because one mentor may give you guidance on some topics, the other mentor may give you and the mentors that I had in the industry, they are now working in different organizations, but I still, if I have a issue, I can just ring a bell to them and they will answer. So that's the relationship part that I am again focusing on. And it is not just people who are senior in the industry can be mentor. I remember when I was setting up the shared service for Computer Science Corporation, who acquired Exchanging, which is the organization I was working with. So we are four people or five people working together in different domains within the shared services. And we used to exchange thoughts with each other, because different people have come with different experience. So they, somebody will be good at strategy, somebody will be good at execution, somebody will have more feedback on particular stakeholder, etc. And when you exchange thoughts with not only the mentors but with your peers, it will help you grow. So that way you always focus on trying to get experience from the people that you work with. And as they say that you are an average of five people that you mostly work with.
True.
So try to explore those five people and maybe try to get different experience. And of the five people, I suggest nowadays one person you keep it as technology or social media because there's a lot of information out there. So I mean, you definitely can grow if you have a good mentor who can help you answer a lot of your issues and challenges.
Thank you, Deepak. Thanks so much. Now that brings me, to my last question of this session. Uh,
Yeah.
how can leaders drive resilience at the workplace as workplace dynamics change in a work from home environment? And how can leaders play the role of the captain of a ship as the pandemic impacts workplaces, culture, teamwork, diversity, and inclusion, etc., in the long run?
Yes. So this is a very relevant question in the context of future of work because what pandemic has taught us is everything can't stay forever, and lot of things we could have executed earlier we didn't do because we didn't think that that is a requirement. But when it became urgent, when then we started to address this. So I think leaders have a very significant role to play in the organization with the pandemic kicking in, and it's going to be there for at least 6 7 months more till the vaccine comes out and we kind of restore back to the old ways of working. But remember, whenever we start to go to office, back to office, or start working, it is not a restart, it's a reset. So we need to use this next few months which are available to us to change our ways of working, how the work from home will work, how the labor laws will impact, how is the social how is the security of your equipments or data that you people are processing is going to impact. And three things that is going to play a key role where leaders have to make a major role is: number one, trust in your employees because they are not in front of you is going to be a humongous big factor in how you treat people. So trust is one you need to develop. Number two, flexibility. We are used to working 9 to 6 shift, and people are micromanaging, etc. That has to go away. You need to be giving more flexibility to the people to execute their job. And number three, basically, is uh, let the things go. I mean, you can't just tell people that okay, this is what you need to do.
Control has to go. Yeah. Control has to go.
Yeah. You control has to go, and you need to let people develop their own ways of working and come back to you. And it is almost has become like a dotted line reporting. I mean, you just let people know, and this culture of gig working and also giving freedom to people, trusting people, working people working from the remote location, this is going to be the new normal.
Yeah.
So as quickly as you adopt to this culture without worrying about what you used to do yesterday, I mean, yesterday is gone. And you need to kind of also see how you integrate with the technology, because what has happened in the last 10 years will now happen in next 1 year. So at that pace, if you want to keep that pace, then you are the one who are, as a leader, are the one who is actually driving it. And believe me, there are a lot of people in the industry who are hired to do a job and they are still doing that job, but that job does not exist. You want people to kind of step up and see that they bridge the gap between the technology and the roles, and find what is the risk and what is the benefit. That is what how you want people to think now. You don't want people who are instruction driven. As Steve Jobs put it, you hire best people in the industry not to tell them what to do, because but you hire them so that they can tell you. And believe me, people today the new generation or the generation Z are very well equipped because they are more aware than the previous generation. So even if at a junior level, if you don't micromanage, they will have ideas which you feel worthy to get implemented. So give them freedom, give them respect, believe in them, trust them, and give them flexibility to work. And they will pay you with the innovation and the culture that you built in your team.
Right. Thank you so much, Deepak. It's been a very insightful discussion, and you have shown different insights and different perspectives on the subject of leadership, how to choose the right career, how to choose the right role for yourself, and how to manage employees. I think our audience is going to love this discussion, and they are going to gain a lot of things from this conversation that we had today. Thank you so much once again for being on this
Sure.
platform. Uh, I really enjoyed this discussion, frankly speaking. Thank you so much, Deepak.
Thank you, Ekta. I enjoyed it a lot as well, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to express myself. I hope that many people will listen to it and gain from my experience.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much. Thank you. Thanks, Atan. Bye bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.